The polls are pretty much saying a narrow Conservative victory, a majority in the House of Commons. Remember, they need 326 seats to cross the line. The YouGov poll, for example, is predicting 339, which would give Boris Johnson's Conservatives an overall majority of 28. But that poll shows that his lead has been cut by more than half from what they were predicting some weeks ago. Now, other polls such as Comres and Ipsos Mori, they're saying pretty much the same thing, a narrow Conservative lead, which may or may not translate into an overall majority. And if he doesn't get that, we're talking a hung parliament. Now, interestingly, the bookmakers, the ones who really know because they make money out of it, they say the Conservatives, yes, they're the favourites to win, but they're also thinking a hung parliament is a real possibility. And interestingly, those bookies' odds are almost exactly where they were 2 years ago to this day. And remember then, they, the bookies, the pollsters and the public got a pretty big surprise when it came to the actual result.
Well, when we look at elections in the past few years, we have had some surprising outcomes compared to what the polls said before. So can we actually trust these figures?
Well, that's exactly right. And as we said 2 years ago, many of the polls forecast a triumphant win for Theresa May's Conservatives, which of course wasn't the case. And that, you could say, has led the public and the punters to distrust pollsters perhaps almost as much as they distrust the politicians. In fact, going back to 2017, only one poll actually got close. That was YouGov, although the actual numbers of seats they projected for each party was, it has to be said, almost entirely wrong.
Some of the big election battlefields have been over Brexit, understandably, and also the National Health Service. What else have been the key issues?
Well, after Brexit, which is first, and then the health service, there's crime, and then trailing perhaps in fourth place are climate change, the environment issues. Having said that, all the parties this year have gone bigger than ever with their promises to commit to policies with helping with climate change. Obviously, the Green Party has the biggest promise of all. They say they'll reduce emissions to net zero by 2030, an ambitious goal. Labour doesn't go so far. It says 2030 as well, but not calling for net zero, calling for a majority of emissions to be reduced. The Liberal Democrats and the SNP, they're both saying 2045 at the latest, and the Conservatives are sticking with 2050, which is already enshrined in law, so no change to their policy there. Some say that the environment hasn't had the coverage from the media that it should have done, particularly when it comes to some of the other issues such as Brexit and the health service. Of course, we had that climate change debate at which two of the leaders were absent, Boris Johnson and Nigel Farage, replaced by dripping sculptures of melting ice. But that in itself, that debate became a bit of a row over tree planting, which party's planning to plant the most trees and whether that will be enough.
And this is all happening at the same time as the COP25 summit in Madrid. Just very briefly, how much do the UK actually care about climate?
Well, it's trailing in fourth place, as I say, behind Brexit, health and crime. Younger voters are more interested than older voters, but it looks as if those big beasts of Brexit and the health service will win the day tomorrow.